Everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. It's International Week in the Championship, but we do still have something to talk about, and that something is the move of Dean Smith from Brentford to Aston Villa as manager, and the kind of impact that that's going to have on both clubs and the division. It's an absolute classic football situation of the smaller team with the very well-performing manager being looked at by the bigger team with the not so well-performing manager. He gets fired and they want a little bit of what he was doing at the smaller club. So absolutely kind of classic scenario, and I'm just going to go into how I think it's going to play out and what's going to happen for both clubs. So a bit on Smith himself first. As an Ipswich fan, obviously I'm quite tuned in on the Championship and nothing else. So Smith first came into sort of my radar as a Championship fan. He was at Walsall in League One, and you know this always happens. He's taken them sort of from down in the bottom six up into the top six, and then all of a sudden every job that comes up you start seeing that name be touted for whichever job. In fact, when we come on to who's been touted for the Brentford job, you'll see the names that are now in Smith's position as it was sort of 2-3 years ago. So Smith, who is a Villa fan working obviously in the West Midlands at Walsall, gets the job offer to go to Brentford. Off he goes to Brentford, and if my recollection's correct, it didn't really start well for him there at all. I remember a big run of kind of bad results, but then all of a sudden that kind of flipped on its head really, and it was, you know, a very, very steady streak. There was the normal Brentford stuff of, let's just say, flattering to deceive slightly, looking incredibly brilliant, but ultimately at the end of each of the campaigns dropping down to sort of 9th or 10th. So that's about the size of Smith, and where we are with him today, where we left the situation. I believe he was in his, I think it must have been 2 and a bit seasons he was at Brentford. And this season particularly, they'd started really, really well. It looked like he had perhaps his best squad since he'd been there. I know that Woods went, but otherwise the squad looked very tidy, functioning really well. And that first sort of 6 weeks, Brentford were excellent and right up in the top 2. They've actually dropped down to 7th position now, so a little bit of a drop off while this has all been happening. But certainly, and I've said it, I've seen Brentford twice this season, and they're the best passing team that you'll see. They're the most pleasing on the eye. I understand that Leeds may rival them for like the most exciting, say, but certainly in terms of just aesthetic pleasure, you won't find many. Well, Brentford, they don't really have a rival for that way of playing in the division, so they do just stand out an absolute mile. So let's talk a bit about Villa and how this happened. And the first thing you should mention is, and this shouldn't be forgotten, is just the sheer size of Villa. If you're an away fan and you turn up to Villa Park, you just realise the scale of this club. You know, they have the words from the European Cup commentary when they won the European Cup. You know, they're league winners in the early 80s. It just turns up and smacks of too big for the Championship. So you would imagine from Villa's point of view, they don't want this Sheffield Wednesday Leeds thing now, where it's been years and years and years since it's been back. So Villa come down, and this is now the 3rd season down, and obviously this always gets mentioned nowadays because of the parachute payments. You get that big chunk in the first year, then it goes down, and I think it goes down to something like 15 million in the 3rd year. And whether 15 million matters or not to Villa now at this stage, I'm not so sure. But those first two payments, I think sort of 40 and 30 million around that figure. Sorry if I'm wrong about that, but around that, don't know the exact number. Now you have to switch your model in this third year, and that's what Villa seem to be doing. Steve Bruce had been brought in as the guy who'd got Hull promoted and Birmingham promoted before, and there's going to be one I miss out. Was it Palace? He definitely got somebody else up. Wigan? No, pass. I can't remember. Steve Bruce has had so many championship jobs. Sheffield United, Huddersfield as well. I think the idea was you bring Bruce in with the parachute money, and he will get you up within those third years. But that did not happen, and I think most Villa fans would agree with me that Bruce fell down on transfer strategy and just style, overly pragmatic style. I know that the Championship is this slog and has this reputation for that, but there has been a slight change where there's been different ways to get out. Perhaps Huddersfield were an outlier, but they did it with kind of energy and preparation. It's not now all about, oh, I know more than you, because everybody knows everything nowadays. And I think that's where Bruce fell down. If you look at the full-time signings here, I've got the list. Taylor, Bjarnason, Hurahan, pretty good. Bree, Lansbury, well, that was expensive and hasn't really worked. Hogan was very expensive and hasn't really worked. Samba, Terry, that was good. El Mohammadi, yeah. Whelan. So I think there was that transfer window. It would have been the first season they were down. It seemed like Villa took a look at the Championship. They saw Hurahan lining up all the assists, Lansbury the playmaker at Forest, and Hogan banging in the goals for Brentford, and they thought, right, we'll take all three of those, stick them in, away we go, promotion. And it just didn't happen, and the spend was big. And I think perhaps the example set by Newcastle and Benitez the season before, where Gale comes, Ritchie comes, Hanley comes, and off they go. But this just didn't work. I should mention the other big caveat as well is the loan players he had, Johnston, Snodgrass, Graben, particularly, as you came to the end of last season, were three of Villa's best players. And, that's the situation they were in. And obviously, away they all go at the end of the season. I should just talk about the style. And I've seen 3 Villa games, say, since the end of last season that really summed this up for me. Because they didn't score. Oh no, they scored 1 goal in all of these 3 games. I saw the playoff final second leg against Borough, and okay, I'll give Bruce a pass on that because he had a lead from the first leg, and what transpired was Steve Bruce versus Tony Pulis and a pretty drab 0-0 draw. But that was enough to see Villa through. Cup football, fine. I get that. That makes sense to me. But then playoff final, they really didn't lay a glove on Fulham. I know Fulham were excellent. I mean, they were a rival to definite superior, actually, to the Brentford kind of passing style. They were fab at that. But it just felt like Villa felt static. And although they had a strong team shape, you just, you've got yourself to Wembley. This is the chance. You're back in, and it felt like they didn't take it. And then I saw them at my team, Ipswich, earlier this season, must have been August. Ipswich go down to 10 men, Villa have the lead, and they don't win the game. Ipswich equalise, and you're looking on the pitch at John McGinn, Jack Grealish, Jonathan Codger, and you're thinking, come on. These guys are really good players, really, really good for this league, especially Grealish. And you think, you should be able to do a bit more than just taking points away from home at 10-man Ipswich. So I think Bruce's time was up there given the money that he'd spent. And obviously, they seem to have surfed these financial troubles, but that's still hanging in the background. I know a lot of share options are being given out at Villa at the moment. So that did for Bruce. Now, the one massive elephant in the room that we haven't mentioned is that of John Terry, who's going to be coming back and working for Dean Smith. So John Terry was at Villa last season, and if I'm speaking out of turn, forgive me, but I think he was excellent. I remember another Villa game, the league game I watched, and I made it my business to watch Terry during that game, and you could see, knowledge-wise, he was just way above everything else on the pitch. Turned out his team lost that game, but he looked quite sort of cerebral when he was watching everything go on. So you could see that there's something to give there in terms of his knowledge. I think the question a lot of people are asking now is that John Terry is far more famous and has far bigger stature in the game than Dean Smith. Obviously, Smith in terms of management is, you know, way down the road compared to Terry, who's not even started. And I think there's just the question there of, you know, when it starts to, possibly if it starts to go badly for Dean Smith, you know, is John Terry in there waiting just to step forward and take the job? That's going to be what's level. It may be completely untrue and may never happen, but that's just going to be the obvious leap that people make given Terry's stature. There's a lot of opinions on Terry, most of them to do with non-football stuff. In terms of as a football player, obviously he was absolutely brilliant and has probably got a lot of extremely high level knowledge. Might not be that much use at the moment in the Championship, but it's certainly all up there for Terry. And you would hope that at whatever age he is now, 36, 37, 38, I don't know what age he is now, that perhaps the stuff that's maybe dogged him in the past, maybe he's grown out of that sort of accusations, and it'll all be football stuff. Because with John Terry, if it is just football, we know just a superstar for Chelsea and you know, a great champion in his day. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. In terms of Brentford, this is really interesting. This will parlay back into how Smith does at Villa, because some would argue that the success of Brentford is to do with the model and not necessarily the manager. Obviously, Smith did a great job there, but they've been doing this system, this kind of Moneyball type, very clever transfer strategy, bringing in guys cheap for you, always selling on at massive profit. Brentford got a very good reputation for their transfers. And the football has been pretty similar since Mark Warburton was there. He's known for the kind of passing football. So this kind of theory that it doesn't matter who you slot into Brentford, they are still going into a very well-run model. And you just have to invest in that model and go with it. So this is the kind of theory that sort of runs around Brentford, that you can take Smith out and put somebody else in, and they will just take on the mantle there. Where that leaves Smith at Villa, I don't know, because if it's having the security of the Brentford model around him, he certainly doesn't have that at Villa. And no disrespect to Brentford, Villa is a different organisation to Brentford. This is high level stuff, big support base. They don't expect to be in the Championship, and if they are in the Championship, they expect to be at the top end of that, trying to get out of it. So, a completely different set of circumstances. So, for Villa's sake and for Smith's sake, you would hope that, you know, it wasn't just the Brentford model that was doing well for Smith. It was a good model with a good manager, and that will be seen at Villa. Now, in terms of Smith's playing style, he should have players good enough to to do that at Villa. And my supposition that they were kind of held back a little bit by Bruce, if I'm correct about that, and Smith is a good manager, Villa will be fine. They'll play a 4-2-3-1. It was Dalsgaard and Barbe way forward at fullback for Brentford. Virtually two kind of playmakers at the back there. It was McLeod and McEachran last time I saw them. Lots of movement around in the three off the front there. And if I'm Jack Grealish, I should be excited because Romain Sawyers was often in the 10 position there for Brentford. And if Grealish is given the same instructions as Sawyers was, he can fill his boots and get a lot more assists and goals than he did get under Bruce. Let's just say. So, look, it's going to be very, very interesting. Brentford odds for the manager. Thomas Frank, the Smith assistant, is the favourite. That would make all the sense in the world. Di Matteo, Nathan Jones, possibly. Danny Cowley, that doesn't make much sense given the styles. Michael Appleton, Carvajal, that doesn't seem to fit the model. Rui Faria, they're all the names being thrown around. If Brentford is as well run as we think it is, then the succession planning will probably already be sorted, and they'll know exactly what they're getting. So in terms of the impact on the league, the natural thing to expect now would be an upward trend for Villa, who are 15th, and that is pretty poor for a club of Villa's size, and a downward trend for Brentford, although Brentford are probably due an upward trend anyway. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Whatever happens, you'd expect Villa to push forward under new management and with their squad. And I mean, you talk about the loans, Snodgrass and Graben and whatnot last season. Abraham and Balassi could potentially be even better this season. So Villa should really be in the top six. Whether this bad start's going to leave them kind of adrift of the top two, we'll see. Be very, very interesting for Brentford though, because in theory you could put me in the dugout for their next game, and that team should just be able to function itself. They're so well drilled, and the model's been so well sort of perpetrated for the last 4-5 years. Going to be very, very interesting to see how it pans out. If you have Villa playing anywhere near like the way Brentford played, with Villa's players and support, Villa will be unstoppable. But it's no way going to be an instant fix to take them. And we've seen this with moving from a Mick McCarthy style football at Ipswich. You cannot snap your fingers at fullbacks who've been booting the ball down the line and players who've been told don't cross halfway and hold your team shape and, you know, take a point. You can't snap your fingers and immediately have them, you know, like Brentford pinging it about 70% possession every game. So be very, very, very interesting. Would love input in the comments on this, because it really could go either way for both teams. Be very, very interesting. Villa fans, let me know, are you pleased with Smith? Can he get you playing the way Brentford were? And what does this mean for McGinn and Grealish and Kodja? Will you now see a different side of those guys? Brentford, who's going to become the new manager? Can the model continue sustaining itself? And are people like Watkins, Mopai, Sawyers, Dalsgaard, Mepham, are they in danger now of being pinched by Villa? I wonder. We shall see. I'm a humble Ipswich fan, so if you're a Villa fan or a Brentford fan, please smarten me up in the comments. You know more about your team than I do. I'm just watching from the outside. No football this week, but we'll try and get some more videos in like this if we can. So please give me a thumbs up. Get involved in the comments and the debate. It really is all about opinion, this one. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So keep it friendly and please put your opinion forward. Everyone is entitled to theirs. Give me a subscribe. That would really, really, really help. We went over 3,000 last week, and I'd love to get this up higher and higher to produce really good content for Championship fans. So please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom, and enjoy the football this weekend. Go to the cinema or something, or go and see your non-league team if you still need your football fix. Thank you for watching. Over and out.